I'd like to talk today about doing good research and citing it properly. And this is primarily aimed at the research essay that you'll be writing, but is also necessary for any kind of research that you might do for any of the assignments on this course, whether it's looking up a journal article or surfing the web. You always have to acknowledge your research. Number one, just differentiating good research sources from bad ones. Uh, the gold standard in research is you want to find good scholarly sources. These are the sources that will be most helpful in helping you develop a literary argument. Uh, how do you know if you're finding a scholarly source? Well, a scholarly source will possess most of these features. There will be an accredited author, very often a professor, or some other kind of expert. A scholarly source will be peer-reviewed, so it's not simply that it's being written by an expert, but it's been submitted to other experts for their review and considered worthy of publication. So that ensures that the field in general thinks that this is a source that is worthwhile. You can look for a reputable publisher. So the university presses, for example, are highly reputable publishers. There are a number of good publishers who are not scholarly, but who do are not university presses, but do publish good scholarly material. Blackwell, Macmillan, and so on. And you may also notice there's an abstract at the beginning of articles telling you what the article is going to be about, and a scholarly source will almost always include fairly extensive references, footnotes, a works cited page at the end, and so on. If you see those things, you're probably dealing with a good scholarly source. Uh, Not only with poems, but also with critics. There's the question of when to quote, when to paraphrase, how much to quote. It's always useful to use some direct quotations from important sources to communicate to your reader what exactly your chosen source is saying. But rather than quoting large blocks of text, it can also often be a good strategy to mix in paraphrase with some shorter quotations. Put the parts of the argument that you can put into your own words, and but include the passages that are most important or that are particularly complex that or need further explanation or simply express that argument better than any other words. So when there are those important phrases, quote them directly. When you just want to communicate the general idea, the main argument that your source is presenting, you can often do that effectively through paraphrase. Things to watch out for when you're doing research. Watch out for inaccurate quotations. You always have to quote exactly what your source says. If there's an error in the source itself, you use the Latin word sic, which basically means that's what it says, so it says, and to indicate that the error is in the source and not your error, or using square brackets to make grammatical changes. Watch out for out of context quotations. Make sure that the quotation from a critic is meant for the particular context that you have at hand. If you make it sound like a critic is talking about Wordsworth's poetry, but in fact they're talking about Coleridge's poetry, you're distorting the meaning of what the author is saying. Also be careful about overusing source material. If you quote extensively from the same source, your reader is going to wonder what exactly you are adding to the analysis. Why are they reading your essay and not the essay you're quoting from? Be aware of the requirements for MLA style for long quotations. Any quotation that is longer than 4 lines is treated as a long quotation, and those quotations have to be offset from the margins in indented 10 spaces, and you do not use quotation marks. The quotation marks are signaled by the indent. You still provide in-text citations, but in this case, they come after the final period of the sentence. Just some principles of MLA style. You start your list of works cited on a new page at the end of your essay. You have the title, which is Works Cited, not bibliography or anything like that, and you center it. You arrange your sources in alphabetical order by author's last name. Do not number sources. You begin each entry flush with the left margin, and then if the entry goes multiple lines, you indent the subsequent lines 5 spaces. Basically, you want the left margin to only have the last names of the authors you're citing, so it's easy for your reader to find them. You double space throughout the entire list. You don't make a differentiation between within the entries or between the entries. It's all double spaced. And you don't make separate lists for different kinds of sources, but you should, at the end of each entry, you should identify the medium consulted, either web or print, most typically. To indicate a second source by the same author, you use the 3 dashes, which basically just means same as above. In terms of whether to underline, italicize, or use quotation marks, the rule here is that you use quotation marks around the titles of short works. So essays, short stories, articles, basically any text that is contained within a larger work is in quotation marks. You italicize or underline the title of the longer works, such as the books or periodicals within which those shorter works might be contained. Note that italicizing and underlining mean the same thing. Originally, underlining was a printer's mark that meant italicize this. So it's meaningless and it's confusing to use both in the same work. Basically, pick one and stick with it throughout your entire essay. In terms of citing simple books, author's name, last name first, title of book, underlined or italicized, and then city, publisher, year. And I've given an example of what that might look like. You can find this information on the title page of a book or the copyright page, and that tends to be where the publication information is included. Sometimes multiple cities are listed. You only need to use one, and you usually pick the first one that's listed because that's usually where the headquarters of the publisher are located. When multiple years are given, use the most recent because that's the version of the text that you clearly have in your hand. Works in anthologies add a couple of layers to this basic citation. In these cases, you would give the author of the work, the title of the work, and then the anthology information. So the author, the work in quotation marks, because it's a shorter work, such as an essay. Then the anthology, the book that it's actually included in. If it's an anthology, it will often then have an anthology will have an editor, so give that information, edited, in this case, Gerald Graff, Kathy Birkenstein, Russell Durst, and then you go back to the basics of the book citation, city, publisher, year. And finally, you're giving the page range of the work, the pages on which the work is included. So 153 is the first page of that work. 156 is the last page. You're not giving the pages that you cite in the in your essay. You're giving the complete page range of the essay, article, poem, or whatever it is. Journal articles have the same basic rules. You still have author's name, last name first, the title of the article in quotation marks, followed by the journal title, which will be underlined or italicized because it's the larger work. Then volume, colon, year, and page numbers. Sometimes you'll also have volume and issue number as well, in which case it would be 115.2 or something like that. So again, here's an example of what it looks like with the in this case the journal title is PMLA. It's in volume 115, which was published in the year 2000, and then the page range of the complete article. Notice that with journal articles, you don't need a city or a publisher. There are small enough and well-known enough journals that the name of the journal is sufficient for anybody who is trying to look it up. And as I mentioned, journals sometimes will also have issue numbers as well as volumes, so use a period between them. Citing online sources is a little more complicated. You still have the author's name, last name first. The title of the document is in quotation marks. If there is information about print publication, if it's something that was published elsewhere in print, you give that information. Then you give information about the electronic publication, and then you give your access information. When did you access this information? And that's important for items on the open web because things can change. Notice that you don't have to provide that when you're talking about journals that you're referencing through the library, because that is those references are stable and they're not going to change no matter how you've cited the work. The basic information is the same and is stable. Sometimes there's no author for an online work, in which case you begin the citation with a title, although you also want to be careful about sources that don't have authors because there's nobody necessarily standing behind them and guaranteeing their veracity. When the document indicates it's also been published in print, you give that information in the proper way. The electronic publication information you want to provide is the title of the site. What is the larger website on which this individual page is found? That would be underlined or italicized because, again, it's the longer work. You'd also give the date of publication or the most recent update and the name of any association that might sponsor the site. In terms of access information, you want to provide the date of access and the URL. Those are the two basic things. You're saying this is the date that I accessed this article, and here's the URL on the web where I found it. So those are the basics for MLA citations. Often you may come across more complicated cases or things that you're not sure how to cite, and in those cases I encourage you to contact me directly and I can help figure out a proper citation with you.